What's up, real ones? It's your host, Rueben. I don't dodge the tough questions, and I'm never afraid to speak the truth. If you're new here, welcome. We celebrate stories, unpack the hard stuff, and talk about the things that actually shape us. So take a breath and lean in. This is Getting Real. Getting Real. Getting Real. What is up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Getting Real with Rueben. So this episode, I've been thinking a lot about like culture and what it means to me, and the movement that the world is going through. And I know this is probably like it's not something that a lot of the listeners that are listening or watching on YouTube, that you wouldn't expect this to come out of my mouth, especially from San Antonio, Texas. But I went to Cowboy Carter, which is Beyonce's tour recently, and I'll make this short and sweet, but something that was brought to my attention walking into NRG Stadium and seeing a bunch of minorities, Black men and women, Asian men and women, Latinos, wearing cowboy attire. It was in that moment that I realized, like, okay, we're finally making progress in the sense of making a lane for everyone, right? And not adhering to these quote unquote rules that I think that we've put on ourselves, and obviously the powers that be, if you will, have put on us. And so anyways, all that to say is that I never thought that I would be sitting on a podcast talking about how amazing Beyonce is and, her impact. But it was just that turning moment where I realized that Beyonce has a superpower, and she had to make a decision to use that superpower to inspire a group of people. Or she could just use her superpower, make money, and keep it pushing. But she chose the latter. And I'm very aware that it's still a business, right? And she's still strategic in making money, and that's her job. But it sparked this thing in me that I was like, okay, like that, I know what my superpower is. And so anyway, all that to say, I really hope that today's episode sparks that in you, because the guest we have today is amazing. So with that being said, today's guest is the former First Lady of San Antonio. She is a confident and proud Latina leader. She is big on culture and equality and representation in San Antonio. So with that being said, I'm so excited to have you here, Erika. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
I'm excited you're here. So for if people don't know who you are and they've been living under a rock, let's kind of talk about maybe the last 10 years in a quick little snapshot. Who are you, what you stand for, and what you do on a day-to-day?
Sure. My name is Erika Prosper, sometimes Erika Nierenberg.
Okay. Yeah.
For the last 10 so years, I have been the First Lady of San Antonio, the mayor's wife.
Yep.
A lot of people also reference like that to me. I've also been a working professional Latina that whole time. I never stopped working when my husband became elected, and helped raise an amazing child as well. He is crazy 17-year-old boy, which means he volleys between having a filthy room to loving on me and adoring me. And I think, as you said, quick and short, I have grown into my own voice over the last 10 years as well. And that's been a journey that I'm very proud of and very excited that is what the 10 years of being in sort of pseudo public office adjacencies can give for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so you touched a little bit on, staying a professional this whole time.
Yes.
And so let's take it back, because again, not to say that all the work that your family has done in San Antonio goes unlooked. We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Sounds good.
For me, I'm more curious because I feel like it's rare. To your point, you're the mayor's wife. You've been the mayor's wife for so long. I'm sure not everyone addresses you that way, but I would imagine just in it, not even realizing, people just kind of in a dismissive way, not even trying to, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
I feel like, because I do follow you on socials and I've dug into who you are, I want to know, the point of bringing you on today was, I want to know who you are. And I feel like we get a glimpse of that if you follow her on social media. And if you don't, actually, you need to follow her. All her handles will be on the screen or in the description. But I want to know who you are, where you come from, where this fire comes from. So let's go back, prior to public office.
Yeah.
What were your dreams? What were your goals even before Ron? Like what did that look like for baby Erika?
Man, we have been married for 24 years, so it's really hard to remember back then. But baby Erika, I loved film and stage. And I always knew I wanted to be in something that brought to light stories because that's what motivated me. I grew up very poor in the Rio Grande Valley. I was a farm worker. My family, half are still really working in the fields. And so that was an escape for me, public television and being able to see the movies, the black and whites, listening to the radio, coming from a part of the country where there wasn't a lot to do.
Right.
So you really did rely on the television to bring you into different worlds.
Yep.
So I grew up with a love of musicals. I grew up with a love of film. I grew up with a love of pretty much people who can bring joy to others through stories. So baby Erika knew that when she grew up, she wanted to figure out how to do that. Now, that said, I cannot dance.
I was just going to ask.
I cannot sing. So I read books and I realized that marketing was a really great way to bring stories to light. Yeah. And so, in my early career, that's what I devoted myself to, almost a decade in the marketing sphere, right? And being able to bring those mini stories in some way to the audiences and to different consumers. Yeah. And so I think that's always been a thread for me. Okay. That in my darkest, you'll always find me literally in the dark in a movie theater. Okay. That is how I reset myself. That's how I recenter myself. I go watch movies. I really, truly believe that there are hidden messages for me specifically when I'm struggling through something that either, Kismet, Buddha, God, whatever you want to call him, that spiritual being brings and lets me kind of know where my center will be.
And when you choose a movie to go into, maybe it's in your house in the dark, or maybe it's at a movie theater. Yeah. Do you choose the movie based on just kind of willy-nilly what's on TV, what's in the theater, or do you have something that you've been eyeing and you go to the movie theater? You know what I mean?
It's a really good question. Right now, I'm going to see every Pedro Pascal movie there is because I've been eyeing Pedro Pascal. But when I'm feeling the need to recenter, I actually will just go and pick a movie. Okay. I try to pick something I would have seen anyway. Right. But I let myself be open to what are some of the messages or what are some of the ways in which this is going to apply to help me think through the situation I'm in. And again, it's been an interesting thing. And I've been doing it since I was a child. I'm not kidding. I've literally sat in front of screens when I have had problems and just let the opportunity wash over me based on the stories that are being told. I mean, it might be psychological. It might be that I'm predisposed to listen to some stories because my mind is already there, but it doesn't matter. The point is we each have our way, and that has been mine. And so because it's been so integral to my lifestyle, Ron, Jonah, everyone knows if I say I'm in movie mode, I'm working through something.
Nice. Okay. So let's talk about you made a comment about, growing up poor or poor, like low income and having,
No, I was poor.
Okay, you were poor.
We had an outhouse at some point.
Okay.
I was poor.
That was going to be my next question. Are you able to visit? Do you get to?
Oh, yeah.
Do you get to go to the Rio Grande Valley often?
100. In fact, I'm going there tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
100%. And I think that's part of the journey for me is that in my youth, I made such a concerted effort to surpass poverty that I associated it with shame. Yep. Right. And all of us do. Yep. All of us do. The life of poverty comes with some bad decisions that you have to make out of circumstances. Yep. As I got older, and I started to understand the value that life gave me, the work ethic, the ability to see people for who they are and not what they have. All these things, I started to really value that part of my story and really embrace it. I never walked away from my family. My family is a very, very core part of who I am because they also keep me very real. Yeah. You talk about a little bit about like authenticity. They are the first to be kind of like, if you're from the Valley, you know what this is. And so I love them for that. And I also think I need them for that because in this world, that eventually first lady-ish world, it's really easy to kind of assume that entry into political life will shield you from, just everything. Bad decisions that you make. And it won't. So when you have a reality check from your family that has seen you, be mocosa, running around barefoot, and kind of stumble as you went through life, it's a really, really healthy thing.
This episode of Getting Real with Ruben is sponsored by Eric Nunez over at New American Funding. He is amazing when it comes to the VA loan. He is actually the home loan guru. So if you need help and you need someone who is going to be personable and know his stuff, then Eric Nunez is your guy. Shout out to Eric Nunez over at New American Funding. So, okay, with that being said, you've talked about kind of growing up. At what point, and I can speak from my perspective, and I kind of feel like maybe you have the same experience. Growing up, it was like, I didn't know I was poor. Like I knew, and I don't think we were poor, but like I knew we were always moving, right? Like we lived in apartments and then rentals, and like it was just kind of always on the go. I knew that we only had one car, and we always had to go together. And then sometimes I would hear friends had 2 or 3, and like, oh, well, my mom's car and my dad's car, and I was like, what? But with that being said, as I grew up, of course, you get into your teenage years, and you're starting to be more aware, right, of what you have and what you don't have. But even then, it was like it wasn't a huge thing for me until. And I think I'm touching on it because you said now you look back and you're like, oh, okay, it shaped who I am. Yeah. And now, and I bring all this up to ask you, do you feel that sometimes you struggle with, because I feel like I struggle with this, and I'm sure a lot of people listening do, this sense of like, I've made it, right? Meaning like, I'm okay, I can pay my bills, like I have a car that I'm proud of, whatever, right? A home. I speak to my therapist often about this. Yeah. I always feel guilty. And I think we all go through that, and it's part of those decisions and all the things that we've come from. It's like, oh yeah, you must be so happy that you made it. Absolutely, I'm so proud of that. But there's a sense of that that guilt that it's because it weighs on you. You know what I mean?
I think it's also because if you feel that, it's because you have empathy towards the people that are still in that circumstance, right? And so, having lived through poverty. And having the perspective of understanding what that means, not just in terms of material things, but what does that mean to the psyche of someone? Yeah. What does that mean to the relationships, right? What does that mean to the violence that sometimes, ebbs into those relationships? Guilt comes in because it's a little, they call it survivor's guilt, right? Like you were able to survive that and surpass it. But I think what I've also come to understand is that when you talk about poverty that way, then you're actually doing a disservice. When you feel guilty, you're doing a disservice to the people who are still making it work with nothing, right? So I think about my tias. Yeah. My tias, they are still making less than $15,000 a year, right? And somehow the ingenuity they've had to figure out how to pay that $30 light bill or that $50 water bill, for me to feel bad for them is a disservice to what they're doing. So instead, what I try to do is I try to basically say, how can I help ease it for you? Right. So I for a long time, and we'll talk about this, for a long time, guilt, I feel, is something that people who were able to work their way or educate their way into another social economic bracket, I think it was almost encouraged for you to feel guilty. Right. Because I think that guilt is a trap that is used beyond that, right? It's used beyond that. I think for women specifically, guilt is used to control. Yeah. And so if you were a woman who used to be poor, you're doubly going to be controlled by guilt. So I have, for many years now, moved away from feeling guilty into trying to be more productive with that instead of letting that control me. Instead, I try to help whomever needs the help. Sometimes I cannot because I don't know how. Other times, if I do have the means or the opportunity or the connections, I will try to help.
Wow, it's crazy because that was a topic when I went to therapy the other day. It was like, she's like, guilt is created to make you stop doing the bad thing that you're doing. Are you doing anything bad or wrong? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, then release it. Like, that is not yours. And it's crazy because now I'm learning a tool here of like, something that can ease that is to contribute in a way that maybe indirectly can ease whatever group I'm thinking about. Yes. That's interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk. We'll get back into a lot of other things, but I want to talk about how we actually first connected because it kind of bleeds into what we're talking about, and I don't think you even realize this in the moment. But so So I used to be a cheer coach, and for, long story short, there was a family in San Antonio. Shout out to the Ruiz family. I had done all their daughters' quinceañeras, and I was doing their final daughter's quinceañera, and we were across the street from a family, and they call and they're like, "Hey, our choreographer XYZ, we need a new one." And so the Ruiz family asked me, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Like, I'm already here. It's right across the street. Like, I can just figure it out." And I couldn't say no. I wasn't gonna say no. And so, anyways, I go to the first practice, and Erika, you were there, and I had no idea who Erika was. In the sense of, I knew who she was. I'd seen her on TV, and I knew who her husband was, like all the things, right? But like, I didn't know you personally, so my brain didn't immediately catch you and clock you and think, "Oh, that's Erika Prosper." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was also there with one goal in mind, right?
To save a quinceañera.
To save a quinceañera in like a matter of 2 weeks.
Yes.
But with that being said, and so I bring all that up because it was just a funny way that we were in the same room. I am in a lot of rooms with my profession of being a real estate agent. I'm in a lot of rooms, but with people that are outside of my income bracket, if you will, we'll call it that. So even socially, and I'm in that often. I try to stay away from it in instances where I know that that group may or may not be my vibe, just to not feel uncomfortable. Right?
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I walk into this house. Beautiful
not
house.
Ours.
Not her house. She's there though, or you're there. And I remember, and it was just I was so nervous because, I mean, I'm a little Southside San Antonio boy who my friends make fun of me. They're like, "Ruben, you're so uncultured." Meaning, like, we'll go to a nice restaurant and I'm like, "What is that?" I'm still learning, right? Even though I go to these galas and I'm in these huge meetings and sometimes, whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyways, all that to say is I get to this house and I see all these people here and they all have children in private school. And I can just tell, obviously, they're just a social group that I'm not used to being around. And immediately I was so nervous. I was like, I didn't, and it's not like me. I love to talk. I love to, and I realized in that moment, like, because I saw all of you just having wine and just laughing and
I totally was. My son was he was one of the chambelans. That's how I ended up there too. We forced him to do it because the home we were in is a close family friend of ours. Lovely, lovely family. And you're right. Their son and a lot of the chambelanas go to Central Catholic. Our son doesn't. He went to public school. Yeah. He's at Cass Tech. Go Knights. But they've been long family friends. Yeah. And to your point, right? I was there drinking wine, trying to make Jonah just go dance and learn steps.
Which he learned, by the way.
He did, which surprised me. Okay, so our son does not dance. So the fact that Rueben got him to choreographed a dance,
it was difficult,
and that he was participating already is a star for you. Good. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. That was really it. It was just to say that I realized that everyone was like me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so you just brought up something that's, I think, important for us all to know, is that every single person is a human being.
Yep.
With a lot of insecurities.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if they are in a beautiful big house or in a small apartment. Mm-hmm. Every single human being, no matter how confident you think they might be, has insecurities. And in that case, you walked into a room with, a parent who was completely insecure about the fact that her daughter's quinceañera might be ruined because they didn't have a choreographer. It was 2 weeks. Yeah. No dance. Yeah. All these teenagers, and so this whole idea of like, I'm a horrible mom because I can't figure this out. And here you are easing that, right? As well as a room of teenagers who, quite frankly, are like left feet with left
they're all
feet.
Staring at me like, you want me to do what?
So, and I think it's important for us to remember that I've walked into boardrooms. Yeah. I've walked into conferences, and a lot of times I have to, remind myself, dang, like, you're nervous, Erika.
Yeah.
It's okay to be nervous.
Yeah.
It is okay to feel insecure about this. And I think if we just forgave ourselves more for that and just accepted that it's a natural part, we wouldn't have so many hangups. And again, so many levers for people to control us, because these are the feelings that get weaponized to control Latinos, Latinas, LGBTQA, Black, Asian, any group basically that's marginalized, they use the same tools. They use insecurity and call it imposter syndrome.
Right.
They use, the notion of guilt
Mm-hmm.
and convert it into shame.
Yep.
I mean, so many little things, and throughout, at least my 40s, I started dismantling them for me.
Cool.
One at a time.
What I guess what was the catalyst? Like, when did you realize, like, okay, I gotta do something about this?
The catalyst, honestly, was 2016.
Okay.
I was trying to help really awesome woman named Carmen Lydia. She's the Fairy Godmother Project. They collect prom dresses for girls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know who she is. And that same year, 2015, I'm sorry. And that same year, I was going through something called Leadership Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
Where these vice presidents and these business women, we're talking about icons in their companies. Yeah. We're all going to this together. And I had the same realization you did. I was looking around. I'm like, these women are all insecure about their careers. Like me.
Me too.
And yet there's a woman over there who owns a jet.
Yeah.
Can fly anywhere she wants.
Yeah.
Like that. There's another woman over there who's a president of a well-known company.
Yeah.
There's another woman who's a vice president, at a bank. And all of them are having the same hang-ups that I have. And so when Carmen reached out and said, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to collect dresses, without even thinking, I said, we're going to do a dress drive. And then I called my friends. I didn't know what I was doing, but we got it done and we collected 400 dresses for her in one night. Plus had a reception. Plus she ended up with 2 scholarships she could give at her summit from Alamo Community Colleges because one of my friends, was working there. And so long story short, it was in that moment that I said, we can do anything we want.
Yeah.
We literally can do anything we want. The only thing that stops us is just us.
Yeah, yourselves.
That's it.
And on that note, tying up that last story I think that was sent to me. Again, call it God, call it the universe, whatever anyone believes in. It was in that moment, truly, I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass here.
Okay.
Truly, when I was so mad at myself that it made me think about how I move forward, building relationships and just putting myself out there. Because I don't know if you remember, but at that quinceañera, every practice I was like, oh, I gotta go. I didn't have anywhere to go.
Oh, really?
I was like, I'm going home. But granted, I needed to go home because I'd been out, showing or whatever, working all day. But my point, though, is that like, oh, yeah, I have to look busy because I didn't want to look rude and be like, no, I'm just going home. But I was so nervous and insecure. And it's because, again, in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm around these lawyers, these very successful people. And I didn't see myself as that, right? So I just felt, and I was younger. So I felt like, well, what do these parents they don't really want to talk to me. Now, granted, no one made me feel that way. Everyone was so nice and so welcoming and so amazing. But it was just also new to me, right?
Yeah.
And I had never been in that social setting, professionally, yeah. But in that social setting, I didn't know how to act. And since then, I've already grown leaps and bounds because I was like, to your point, the only person stopping me was me because there were these relationships that I could have nourished and maybe, who knows, connected with one or two and become lifelong friends or business partners, whatever it is, whatever comes out of it. So yeah, it was one of those aha moments. And to this day, I will text the quinceañera's parents, Jorge and Victoria. I will text them and just check in and say, hey, like, because they have no idea why I appreciate them. They still to this day, I've never told them this, but it was that opportunity it just was the catalyst for me to realize, okay, like I got to do better for me. You know what I mean?
That's fantastic.
So it was cool. It was a cool experience, and it's funny that you were a part of that.
And isn't it interesting that you make these decisions, you move forward, like you said, with the things you want for yourself. Have you seen any consequences from it? No, exactly. So this is the deal. So many of us stop ourselves from opportunities, from just living a life we want to because we feel there are going to be consequences. And I can tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, there are no consequences.
Right.
And for good or bad, because there are people out there doing horrible things with no consequences.
Right.
And I don't understand why there are people out there not doing great things, also knowing there are no consequences.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's almost like the two stand true together, and it almost seems like it starts to benefit because we we paralyze ourselves. So it starts to benefit the wrongdoers more because
Exactly.
there ain't nothing paralyzing them. It continues to push them on, right? So on that note, let's talk about, so you're huge on culture, you're huge on Latino culture, you're
Love
huge on your core, right? And so I want to know, you kind of touched on it already, but I want to know, like, where does this deep rooted pride come from? Because you have it for the Latino culture, you have it for the LGBTQ culture, you have it for San Antonio, you have it for all these different subcultures, if you were. And where does it all derive from? Like, where is it?
I can tell you my grandmother, who just passed away at 101 this year.
Wow, what a beautiful life.
Yes. Most of that love of acceptance and culture was from her.
Okay.
In her house, as poor as she was, people would come from all over and they would stay at her house. Sometimes they were coming either on the way to Mexico, they would stay a night or two and then move on.
Okay.
Sometimes it was the cousin of a cousin who didn't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
And so she gave them room and board for 3 months. She always accepted everyone's story.
Mm-hmm.
She always accepted everybody. And what that did is it cultivated a love of curiosity on my side for who the person is, not the circumstances.
Yeah.
Right. And so as I've gotten to experience, right, travel, experience life, be professional, be exposed to all this, it has continued to be a sort of love and curiosity of the person, not the circumstance.
Yeah.
Right. And so I agree with you. I am a hardcore. I'm a 956-210 girl.
You really are.
I'm like the Valley. Don't be knocking it because I will answer you.
Yeah.
And obviously San Antonio being my home for 25 years, for half my life now, because I am a 50-year-old. I also will not. I'll come after you if you attack San Antonio too, because I think that rootedness, having a sense of place, is so important. It's a foundation for you, right? And I always try to remind people, if you're from San Antonio, if you live in San Antonio, if this is your home, you are actually from one of the most amazing places in the country.
Amen.
This is a very compassionate, forward-thinking city that has survived over 300 years by just being who they are.
Yeah.
We don't shy away.
Right.
We are who we are, and we will lean into our Latino culture.
We don't conform.
We don't. Someone comes and tries to change us. We're like, you know what? That's nice. Go be you.
Yeah.
We're going to be us.
Or we take it and we're like, let's make it our, we're going to make it our own.
Exactly. So that passion, I think, comes from her.
Yeah.
And just watching her, like I said, and I say it again, accept the people, not the circumstances. Yeah. And that, to me, opens you up to being a champion of anything that is, even if it isn't necessarily yours, but a curiosity for it and a big sort of like supporter of it. Less champion, but more supporter of it.
And okay, so let's talk about then, you talk about San Antonio and we talk about, representation and equality and equity and all the things that come with that. Where do you feel, or how do you feel, actually, San Antonio is dealing with that? Do you feel like we're continuing to grow and thrive? Do you feel like we've hit any bumps in the road? And I'm not speaking on like, I'm not speaking on more of like the city. I'm talking about, or the infrastructure or anything like that. I'm just talking about as a culture. And you've seen it firsthand.
I have. I think what I love about where we're heading is that what was happening around the country for 20 years was that we had our millennial and our Gen Z generation re-embrace the Latino part of who they are.
Which is so amazing.
Right? People walking around being free. And then exporting that, right? And having their friends culturally exchange with each other. Having a Black person, teach them about their background, their culture, their struggle, and vice versa. Yeah. And seeing this exchange of sort of pride in each other's culture. And so for the last 20 years, I've seen these generations kind of like reacculturate back into who they are. Or even if that wasn't how they were raised, re-embrace, right? So for me, San Antonio has been at the forefront of that. I think as the city has grown and has become more of a mecca for people who just kind of want to go somewhere where they're just accepted for who they are.
Yep.
They bring with them a lot of that confidence in the culture. So I actually don't see San Antonio dialing back on that reality of we are a place where you can come and celebrate your authenticity. We have the freaking largest city-sponsored Diwali celebration in the country.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Think about it.
That's so cool.
Diwali.
Yeah.
And it's not just our Asian, Indian, and Southeast, residents that go.
Right.
You see Latinos, you see everybody out there, right? We have obviously the largest MLK March, city-sponsored MLK March in the country. Again, everybody. And I think that is San Antonio's secret. That is San Antonio's way of always being true to themselves and continuing in progress, is that we understand we're not, I say to people, look, there are cities who want to be a shooting star.
Mm-hmm.
They want to rise fast and be known and be cool. We are a constellation.
Yeah.
We have been around. We've seen. We continue to be a model. We're always in the sky, and we're not going to change. We are a constant.
That's so cool.
Some people see that and say, oh, that means old-fashioned. That means you're not going to move. That means that, we're stuck. But I'm like, no, it means we are way closer to who our core identity is. And we will invite you in to share, learn from you, and show it back with even more abundance. But don't mistake our sort of slow and quiet, identity as anything but confidence in who we are. That's why we are the city that started MALDEF. We're the city that started COPS Metro. We're the city that, has a legacy of being activists.
Right.
Because we're pretty set in who we are and what's right with that.
That's such a good analogy. Like, I don't think I've ever heard it said like that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, you and I'm kind of easing into this because you know a lot about a lot, because number one, you're passionate about it in your own right, but then I'm sure, right, it's piled on you, or has been piled on you, because you're keeping up with the current because of who your husband was for so long, right? So with that being said, you've worn a lot of hats. You're a leader, you're in the corporate world, you're a mom, you're a wife, you became the mayor's wife. Like, out of all those hats, is there any...
Or did he become the mayor while he was my husband?
Right. You know what I mean? Like, and so are any of those hats, wearing any of those hats or all those hats at the same time, what is the biggest lesson you've learned out of all of that?
Man, to not try to wear them at the same time.
Okay.
I think that's something I would recommend to any human being, specifically women who are always charged with trying to be the end all to everybody. We're conditioned to be caretakers and always kind of take on other people's emotions and other people's, insecurities. We're conditioned. Society has conditioned women. And I think if you're an empathetic, compassionate person, whether you're a man or a female, society will condition you to have the same effect, the same role, right? I can tell that from you. You're probably the person in your friend group that takes on a lot of the emotional burden that your friends have, right? Yeah. Because you're caring. And so I think the lesson for me has been, hey, I don't have to prove to you that I'm a great executive, that I'm a great mother, that I'm a great first lady, that I'm a great wife. I don't have to prove to you. I know I am. I just am not going to be all that at the same time. So let's get this straight. If I want to be a great leader, which means I want to spend time with my team, which means I'm going to be out of town to meet some of them, where they live, and I'm not in home to cook dinner, there's a meal simple. I'm not going to be a good mother that day, according to society. But to my kid, he got fed. He doesn't care, right? Same thing. If I want to be a good wife, and that means that I want to create a dinner reservation and just go out of my way to make Ron and I's relationship, just better for that evening, then that might mean that I leave work an hour earlier to be able to get ready or to be able to drive where we're going. And that doesn't mean I'm a bad, leader or employee. Yeah. It just means that at that moment in time, I am choosing to spend, my time that way. So I think if more people were just okay with knowing that they can achieve a semblance of happiness. Happiness is probably not the word. A contentment. With having multiple responsibilities and life's quote unquote or hats, as you said it. But they just don't have to associate the guilt when they're not 100% in every one of them. Hat. Yeah. Just like it's kind of like what Chanel, used to say: before you leave the house, take off one accessory. It's the same thing. Before you start piling on guilt of trying to be everything to everyone, stop and take one of those responsibilities off the plate, man.
For that moment. Because that's not who you are in that moment.
And that is how people ask me, like, how did you get all that done? I'm like, that's how. I just never tried to be everything all the time.
Yeah.
I picked the moments where I could be a better than average mom to my kid, a better than average, boss to my team, a better than average wife. But knowing that meaning better than average meant I was less than average somewhere else.
Right. Quote unquote.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
It's okay. And you're right. Average is not, what is average?
Like where's the rule book? There's no rule book. That is my line. I always say, like, there is no rule book on how you do anything or walk or talk or whatever. Okay, so you talked about, we're going to dig in a little bit because I know people that are listening want to know. Okay, so you've been married to Ron for quite some time.
Yes.
A very handsome man. And if you don't follow her on social media, sometime the other day, I don't know what it was, you posted.
Him working out?
Yes. And he's like, he saw you and he was like,
he's like, please stop.
But it's so funny. So shout out to my husband because he's always like he like a thing in our house. He's like, oh my God, did you see Daddy Ron? And I'm like, oh my God, stop. But with that being said,
y'all can call him Daddy, Zaddy, Hot Mayor.
All the things.
Yes.
So but that now, when he became mayor, what was that like? Like, obviously there was a conversation and all the things, but like, I would imagine when it started, when it actually, like, he was in the chair.
Yeah.
I would imagine your life changed in a way of like, wow, we turned the volume up a little bit. Like, we upped the ante. And what did that feel like? What did it look like? Was it scary?
Well, thank goodness we didn't know what the heck we were getting into.
Yeah.
I say that with all sincerity because there were probably some things that we did together that now looking back, I'm like, that probably wasn't what a first family should have done. Including like posting pictures of my husband working out.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a typical thing. But one thing we did say was, look, this is going to go in so many directions that we're not sure of. So let's just make sure we agree on 3 things, right? I will only go with you to 3 events a week because someone needs this. There's a kid here, and someone needs to make sure the kid's,
he was so much younger.
Good. Oh, he was a tiny baby. He was 8 years old when Ron became mayor. He was 3 when Ron became a councilman.
Wow.
So I was like, there's some boundaries we're setting, right? So I'm not going to be with you all the time as your arm candy, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. The second rule we set was basically when he got home between 6 and 9, 7 to 9, he needed to chill out on the work and pay attention to the boy because that mattered. We were raising a young man, specifically someone who needed a male presence to be able to understand what it is like to be a man in today's world. And then third is like, you do you, I do me, and we'll advise each other when it comes to if you post something that you don't want posted, but leave me alone otherwise, right?
You signed up for mayor, not me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, this is what you want.
Exactly. So if I want to post a picture or a video of you working out, like, sorry, I'm going to do it, right? And I'm very proud of him, obviously. Yes, I know he's gorgeous. I think he's gorgeous. He thinks I'm gorgeous, and that's the way it should be. And so I'm really, for me, it's also kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing because honestly, you don't get to see some of your public officials in day-to-day life. Normal. Previous, politics was always about the presence and what did you see. It was all very curated.
Very perception, yeah.
Yeah, it was very curated, but San Antonio's not like that. No. We're not a city that needs things curated.
And prim and proper. And
We're a city that wants to see that your mayor does laundry, which he does every Sunday. We
works out in his garage.
Yeah. You want to see him laughing. You want to see him stumbling. You want to see him, and I personally think that it was really closer to who the city's soul is to show him that way.
Yep.
It didn't start that way.
Yeah.
I started to post some of those things and people were giving me positive feedback like, oh, thanks for showing him doing that. Or, hey, I didn't realize that. And then I thought, this is good. It's good for you to see that your leader is like you.
Yeah.
So that you feel comfortable stopping him in the street, saying hello, which most people do. One of the things that I love about him and how he was mayor is that no matter where we were, no one was scared to come up to him, whether they were little kids or adults, and say hello.
Yep.
There was no air. There was no wall.
Yeah.
people just would say...
He wasn't untouchable.
Yes. And they wouldn't even say like May or something. They'd be like, hey, Ron. Which I love. I still love to this day.
And I would imagine he feels the same way.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So that, did not expect it. Did not know what we were getting into, but I'm really glad that it ended up going very organic.
What would you say is what was your least favorite part about?
Oh, well, at first, my least favorite part was that people kept thinking I was his assistant. Like every time we'd go someplace, people would be like, "Can I give you his number? Here's his card."
Wait, in knowing that you're his wife, or
people
just
didn't know.
Truly just
didn't
that
know.
woman is his assistant?
Yes, did not know, right, that I was his wife. I'm a very curvy lady. I'm a size 14. Mm-hmm. Was 14, 16, and so I think a lot of times when people see this very handsome, fit man, they assume that he's going to be with some model.
Interesting.
Right? Not this chaparra from the valley, gorgeous.
I never thought about it like that.
And so a lot of times I think the assumption was this can't be his wife.
Yeah, there's
it has
no
to
way.
be assistant, right? And so so that was all that annoyed me at first a lot. And we used to have frank discussions about it. I used to be very upset about it. And then I think over time I enjoyed it because then I realized I can leave his side. I can go do whatever I want. Why am I so after about the first year and a half, I was like, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm out. Because now if they don't know who I am, I don't have to actually stick around. So I have found that it was a lifesaver for these last, few years. It's been great.
And that lasted the whole time?
Well, it lasted really up until basically midway through. I think I started to get recognized a little bit more after COVID.
Oh yeah, okay. That's when you started. Yeah, everyone
and that's
was
really
at home
when I posted more.
I was gonna say you were at home. You had a lot more content to give.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think after COVID, because I did up my posts. I used to post maybe once a week, and then I started posting like once a day.
Yeah.
Because like everyone else,
yeah,
what is there to do? And I think after that, people did start to recognize who I was, at least physically. And also at that point, Ron was being a little bit more considerate when I would go places, and he'd be like, "This is my wife. She's not my assistant."
Right.
And so that helped as well.
That's cool. Okay, and when we talk about being the first lady and the family, right? Because it is you three. Mm-hmm. What would you say? And it doesn't have to be maybe the person you met, but like, what was the most iconic moment or a couple moments that you remember, maybe as a family, maybe personally, selfishly, if you will, just something that you're like, cool. Damn, that we did that.
I have a lot of cool things, guys, that have been over the years. Okay, so growing up, like every girl from Generation X, I was in love with John Cusack. Okay, I got to meet John Cusack,
really?
And I got to have him sign a poster of him with the boombox, but instead of his head, it was Ron's head, and he signed it.
That's cool.
He signed it. He didn't even.
And where was this
left at the Tobin Center.
Oh wow,
that was a highlight for me because literally I was like, I've been in love with you since I was a kid. Not anything that a person wants to hear, but still, it was a highlight for me. Okay. Very selfish. The highlight as a family was welcoming, the King and Queen of Spain.
Oh,
how amazing is it that you are literally with, monarchs, and you're celebrating 300 years of a city, that they sent the Canary Islanders to come and live, and so to meet an actual monarch and hang out with the Queen,
that is so cool.
Talk to her about kind of her life, which is like her daughters. Princesses, real life princesses, was really cool. I also thought it was cool for us as a family because Jonah got to meet them too. He got to experience what it was like to be around them. Like they were real. Yes, and they gave him a copy of Don Quixote, in Spanish.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful experience. I know personally Jonah also loved meeting what is the name of that famous astronomer or astrologer? He's an astrophysicist. Can't remember his name now, but he loved it because he had grown up seeing its science. And Neil deGrasse.
Yes.
Thank you, Neil
I
deGrasse.
knew it was Neil. I couldn't remember the last name.
No, great memory. Jonah loved it because
that's his thing.
He was into science at the age, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen this man talk about black holes, and I'm here talking to him with him." So there have been some really amazing highlights. One of the first memories I had of being first family was he got sworn in, and right after that was our first pride parade, and they made us grand marshals right away. So our very first parade was actually the Pride Parade.
That is so
So
badass. That's so cool.
It was because remember he got sworn in early June as mayor, and right there, so it holds a very special place in our family's heart to know that the very first community that really embraced us as part of their community was the LGBTQA community.
Which makes sense because every year.
Yeah.
Every year y'all were there.
This is the first year that we didn't get to go because obviously we weren't no longer on the floats.
Yeah.
And Ron had taken off to get his head straight. He left for a week to just kind of break the break apart the hard. So it was the first year we didn't get to go.
I didn't go. This was actually the first year I didn't get to go either. I was out of town. Okay, so and after this next question, we're gonna go back a little bit before we wrap it up. But you made me think of something. I'm like, dang, I never thought about all the cool stuff that. I mean, outside of, events and like, for instance, New Year's, I always see you guys do the countdown and like things like that. I always forget that there may be some perks when you are the first family of San Antonio when concerts happen. Like, I know this is overstepping, but did you ever like, for instance, I don't know if Jonah, I know Jonah's right now, if I remember correctly, I know he was really into like Japanese culture, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he'll be leaving to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
he's going to be studying his senior year of high school.
Okay, because he went on a trip during the quinceañera stuff.
He did.
Okay, I remember that.
He went to Korea.
So I know he was like into K-pop at the time. So I'm going to use that as an example.
He's never been to K-pop.
Okay.
He's always been into Japanese music and Japanese manja.
Okay, that's what it was. Then it was. Manja. I remember overhearing him talking about it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm using this as a scenario. But like, if they were to come into this, one of the artists were to come in. Was it ever a thing that's like, was it a Jonah thing or maybe an Erika thing that's like, hey dad or hey babe?
Yes,
like,
Los Bookies. When Los Bookies came to the
it was
to the Alamo Dome.
He came to the Alamo Dome. Okay.
When they came to the Alamo Dome, I did. I was like, honey, you're gonna take me to see Los Bookies. That very rarely. It's interesting you ask that because I'm not a concert person.
Okay.
Right. Ron probably is he's the music person in our family. He and Jonah. And so I'm 100% sure that Ron got to see, metal bands. He loves hard rock. He went to see the concerts.
Yeah. I
only really asked to see Los Bookies.
Okay.
I asked to see Los Tigres del Norte.
Okay.
Right? You're going to sense a pattern here, right? I think I did ask to see... What was the name? Timbiriche, one of the ones from the 80s when they came. But yeah, I really didn't keep track much of who was playing what. In fact, even like I could have gone and asked to see Shakira, right? Because that was before he stopped being mayor. But I was like, nah, I'm cool. Like, because I'm not a big concert person. But things that had a significant seared memory in my life in early childhood, I did go out of my way to ask and be like, can you get me a ticket? But he has to come with me. That's the thing is he can't get me the way the rules are is like the actual elected official has to go. So he sat through a lot of Mexican concerts.
That he probably didn't know some of the songs, right?
Yeah, he sat through a lot of them.
That's so funny. Okay, and I think of that because I'm like, dang, when you mentioned what was it you mentioned? I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that.
No AT&T. It's not owned by the city.
Yeah. Okay, so now let me ask you this. Okay, so before we go into the last segment of the show, what's next for you? Like, obviously, you're going to continue on the path that you've been on. Nothing changes there, but with the ending of that chapter in your family's life, that specific chapter, what's next for you? Do you have a fire in you that makes you want to maybe get into public office, or is there something that you want to, learning all the things you learned the past 10 years that you're like, you know what, I'm going to focus a little bit more of my time on this outside of work?
So, I have 2 people in the household right now going through major transitions, right?
Oh, that's true.
Here's Ron stopping a 12-year career, shifting careers. That's a major change, right? Then I have a son who's shifting to study abroad, and I don't know what needs will come of that. So in every circumstance, I think you have to have a stable person, right? And so my gift to them is I will be the stable person. I will continue to work, my job. I won't make any major life changes,
Okay.
anything crazy. Let you all settle into this new life, this second part of this year, and just kind of keep things moving, right? I've been asked whether or not I'm interested in public office before. I am not. Not that I have anything wrong with that, but because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, it's taken me a long time to find my voice, to find a center for myself. And I happen to know that if you engage in a life of public office, your voice stops being yours alone. You have to share it with those you represent, right? And so it doesn't become about you. It really should be about them, which means everything I've worked for, in the last 10, 15 years to find my voice, I would have to compromise it
and put it on pause.
And I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And so for me, what I want to do is really sort of focus on the fact that I've built really great relationships, have discovered amazing people doing amazing things in San Antonio. And I want to spend time just either helping them connect to people who can help them take it to the next level, or sit and have coffee with them and brainstorm what they can do.
What they could do next.
Yeah, people all the time. I'm like, you can just reach out on social media and be like, hi, you want to have coffee? Here's kind of what I want to know. And most of the time, if I can squeeze it in to my workday, I will do it. Like you asked me, hey, do you want to come do this? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Because I do think that giving people time is probably something that is a true service.
Yeah.
And so now that I have some of it back, I'm going to reallocate
spread it a little bit more.
I can reallocate it. And I think giving someone time and giving someone connections are the two easiest things that you can do. And you don't have to connect. It doesn't have to be a connection with a person of power or prominence. It can just be, hey,
to help them grow.
You're starting you like to do seamstressing work. Guess what? I have a friend who actually has a dance troupe. They might need someone to help them with their costumes. Doesn't have to be a end all connection to the rich and famous, but I think that is a good way for me while the guys are settling into something new. That's where I can do something new with that extra time without necessarily stopping being the stable person in our family now.
Yeah, you need to write a book. I just want to let you know. I'm sure you've heard that before. Okay, so as we wrap up, I do a segment with every guest on the show at the very end. But before I do that one, I have a couple things that I want to ask you. So for the first thing I want to ask you is, if there was one word that you would want San Antonio to remember you as a leader, because in my eyes, you were a leader alongside Ron, what would that one word be or phrase be?
She really believed in us.
Yeah.
Because I really do believe this city is one of the best in the country. And I truly believe every single person living here doesn't realize it, but they are probably 10 to 15 times more compassionately innate than other parts of the country.
And it's crazy you say that, because I hear you say that on a lot of things, on TV, when you speak at gay, everything. I've heard it before, and but the thing is, I've always believed it. And then sitting right here in front of you and hearing your story and hearing who you are at your core, I believe it 1,000,000%. It's not just something you regurgitate.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I am telling you objectively, as a professional who has traveled, has had a long career, has gone to other cities, this city is so much more ahead of the game. Not in output, but in who we are, in our identity, and our strengths as a community, than so many others. And I just wish we would understand that more.
Yeah, I think it takes so much more time, but I already think we're getting to the point where everyone's starting to realize our power, if you will.
Yeah, let's say that. We're not a city of potential. We're a city of power.
Yeah.
We just need to start claiming it more.
Yeah, claiming the power.
And being more okay with being a city of power.
Yep. I love that. Okay, and then the last question I have for the interview is, what's one question you wished you were asked more while either you were either the mayor's wife or just as Erika, what is a question that you feel that isn't asked much about you or in interviews or whatever that you wish more people would ask?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. That question right there. No, I think the assumption when I was first lady was that I didn't work. And that somehow Ron is rich. He is not. Trust me. What he doesn't make up in money, he makes up in good looks.
Yeah.
But I wish sometimes people would ask me a little bit more about like my intellectual curiosities, my sort of just who I am as a professional.
Yeah.
As opposed to just in the role of first lady.
Right.
But you know what? I am not disappointed that they didn't, only because the role of first lady is a responsible role of representing the city.
Yeah.
So it would be natural that they'd want to know more about that part of my life. I wish people would ask me more like, hey, tell me about your leadership journey as a woman, like talk to me about it. And I've had plenty of opportunities to discuss it in places where I'm asked to speak as a professional. Mm-hmm. But I would have loved for the city to understand that you had a working first lady who got a good education and was able to basically see the role in a different light than just as traditionally people assume is a socialite who doesn't work, which I think is a disservice to first ladies because honestly, I've met Tracy Wolf. She was a hard worker. Yeah. She worked a lot. Erika Castro during her time worked for education to bring to light all these. So the ones I've met were hardworking, but a lot of time the assumption is that we don't work. Yeah.
And did you ever feel, the follow-up to that was, did you ever feel like you couldn't lean into that more? Like, did you ever feel like it was kind of like, well, if I do that, it almost seems like I'm crapping on and I'm not putting that as priority. You know what I mean?
I felt like if I leaned too much in it, also people, what I didn't want to do was have anybody misunderstand that I was trying to hone in and be like, look at me. And also like, I'm as smart as my husband,
Right. So, well, I think it might be hard. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it might be hard. The company that you work for, is amazing. Yeah, like it's an amazing corporation. However, I don't know if you thought this. I probably would think this of like, well, I also don't want to, even though HEB is a very caring and supportive company. I also don't want to blur any lines where they're saying, "Hey, keep that. That's your personal life," because essentially it is, right? Yeah, like there's a little fine line there. I guess.
I mean, actually, that's really the main thing is we did keep our work lives separate. We didn't talk about his work at home. Mm-hmm. I didn't talk about my work at home. And I think to your point, I always knew. How about this? I always knew I was always representing HEB, no matter what I did, because as an executive there, I'm always representing the company and our partners, and I was always representing the city at the same time. And so I had to pick and choose. Yeah. And so when I was first lady, I tried to minimize, my role as an executive. It was going back to the hats. And then when I'm at work, I try to minimize that. And so to your point, you're right. You're bringing it back to it. It's this hat stuff. So, but there were times when I wish people would ask me a little bit more about my intellectual pursuits, not just necessarily, kind of like galas and things. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Right.
It comes with the title.
Love the dresses.
Yeah. The makeup, the hair, all the things. I think that's exciting to know that teed you up at least.
It did.
Those years teed you up to say, okay, I gave my life. And I put some things on pause, but now you all know who I am, and this is what I do. You know what I mean?
Well, and I credit my time with HEB for having me be a little bit of a less wound up first lady, because the training you get there is about others. It's about putting the customer first. It's about putting your partners first. So by the time I came into being first lady, I had already gotten an amazing foundational education about how the city and its populace should be first, not me as a first lady.
You're like, I've been doing this. You know what I mean, essentially.
So it was kind of great training.
Yeah. Okay, last thing before we finish up, because I know we're running out of time. I ask all my guests this, and this is actually the reason why one of the reasons I started this podcast and calling it Getting Real was because I felt like for me growing up, being a young LGBTQ child, I didn't know, and growing up on the South Side and all the different layers, I never felt like there was someone that looked like me or talked like me or had dreams and aspirations like me. I always, in interviews or when I'm, speaking at functions, I always reference little Rueben because little Rueben, I guarantee you, never would have thought I'd be sitting in a studio like this doing this, right? So I pass it to you. Yeah. You can look at the camera, you can look at me, you can talk to me. If you could talk to little baby Erika from down in the Rio Grande Valley, out working in the farms, whenever moment it is that you probably remember, the earliest you could remember, what would you tell her, all the things you know now?
I'd say probably, little Erika, you are beautiful. Your skin color is beautiful. Your story is beautiful. You don't have to try to be somebody else to accomplish the things you will. And little Erika, the main thing you also need to know is that all people who hurt you, they will mean nothing in your future. All of the pain, all of the abuse, all of the heartbreak, that will mean nothing to you as you get older. It will be supplanted by amazing memories and great experiences. And then last, I would say, basically, little Erika, try your hardest to just not rush into things to get security. Instead, take your time and risk a little more.
I love that. Mic drop. And I feel like it's crazy because I do that segment often with all my guests, and it always takes people off like, oh man, I haven't done that in a minute.
I haven't.
But it's also a reminder for the guests to do that for themselves, because when we look in the mirror, we give our kudos, and we meditate, but we forget to, there's little Erika still exists in her heart and out in the world. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. So
I think that was sweet. I'm gonna remember this. And I'm like,
Thank you. I'm glad. Well, thank you so much for coming. Me. I'm happy you came. You will have to make your husband listen to this episode because he needs to know that my husband and I are in love with him. But on a serious note,
I join you in that. I'm in love with him too.
But on that note, I just
what do you think of the beard?
I like it. It's different.
Right?
Good for him.
I was trying to get him to look like Pedro Pascal.
I was going to comment on that. We're about to end here, but I was going to comment. I was like, Erika has a type because she loves Pedro. I think a lot of us do as well. But last thing before we end was, seeing you and your family just on TV, but then seeing a portion of your family, again, how we met, it was very apparent that y'all have done an amazing job, not just as parents, but as human beings, because I don't think Jonah probably even realizes how cool his parents are, not because they were in public office or because they're huge, they're high up in the corporate world. I'm saying just because of the nature of how y'all brought him up and allowed him to truly just walk his own walk. Because I noticed that when I met him, it was just amazing. It's amazing. And it's amazing to meet you in person and sit down and talk to you more and learn who you are and get real, because that's the point of this podcast. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for giving me a chance to be real with you.
Of course. So thank you guys for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you follow us. We'll be releasing another episode every 2 weeks from now. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.